Good. Okay, we will call to order the zoning advisory group meeting for July 2nd. Uh, we do have a quorum. Um, in the room, we have from the planning board, Tom, Cheryl, Bill, and Tony. Pat is on Zoom. Is there any, trying to see what else I got here. I did say Cheryl, right?
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
I did. Okay. Because I see Cheryl here too, but I just want to make sure I said Cheryl. Okay. Uh, and then we also have Nancy and Chuck and Marie.
Steve on this, and it's my fault because I didn't place the tables correctly.
I see her up there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's here. Yep. So we do have a quorum and we're good. Any changes to the agenda or items which people want to talk about which are not on the agenda? Oh, also here is Spring and Gina. I'm saying this so that from the transcript I can pull things out, right? Okay. Nothing else. I do want to change one thing slightly on the agenda. Before we go into definitions, I want to talk about the 622 draft red line. That was sent out. Did anybody notice anything? I know, Chuck, you sent me something, and I think it was mostly because of from the memo that I created, there was some confusion around conservation subdivisions, RRRA and CV, and the change in applicability. Article 9, that draft was modified so that it was required in RA and CV. There are several references in the draft red line. 270.6 is one area. I believe it's 276.5. And there's this other piece that we talked about that we have to go back to where it does not align, where they reference conservation subdivisions, but it does not align with the modified Article 9. So we do have to fix those things. But in all places, it should be conservation subdivision as it stands right now, required in RA and CV, not RR. Although there is a suggestion to the town board that in Article 9, we may want to add wording that says that the planning board can require it in RR when that property is within a New York State designated ag zone. Ag district, don't say zone. It's not a zone, it's a district.
It's district.
New York State designated ag district. So that's still being discussed, and that's with the town board actually on the conservation subdivision. Whatever we do though, we have to make sure that in these places in 270, we have to make sure that if we reference conservation subdivision, that it matches. And I know, Nan, I sent you something asking why is this whole other section in here? Because there's a whole nother section. I mentioned it. It's in my email.
Right.
There's a whole nother section where it really goes through all the conservation subdivision stuff again, but it's not for major subdivisions. It's for not PUDs, but what is it, Nan? It's for
It's for any, yeah. So it's the conservation design, which uses the same kind of methodology as the conservation subdivision, but for like multifamily developments that
Right, multifamily developments and
that
all that,
you're
right?
not subdividing, you're just, it's a collection of buildings. So,
Right.
and I'll take the blame for not making sure that the RR, RA, and CV districts lined up. I thought I had taken care of that, but I must have missed some. So I
Okay.
apologize for my part in that confusion.
Right. So Chuck, to answer your question, yes, that it should be RA and CV. We do need to fix a bunch of these cross references. And because we're going to go through, not in this meeting, but I think one of the future meetings, we need to go through um, the this multifamily design piece, because that's one of the sections that's all marked up that we have to look at. So we will be going through it there. And really in that case, I think we're primarily trying to make it match the conservation subdivision law, right? But so I think there are some things that we have to go back and look at there. So did anybody notice anything else? And if we think about this, so the idea is we go through the meeting, we edit things. Nan sends out a revised red line, right? The only things that are different in the revised red line should be the things that we talked about in the meeting. And so the check then is, all we should be doing then is just making sure that, okay, are the things we talked about reflected in the new version, right? The future things, they've been in, they aren't changed generally, right? So
There.
right, we're not there yet. So
Well, that said, Tony, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you're getting out not only your own rendition
Mhm.
of the key points, you say substantive changes
right.
and the minutes and the agenda was terrific.
Yeah. And I will admit that this memo, which actually what I did is I ran the two versions through
But I saw-
AI. I ran them through AI, said, tell me the differences. And that really helps pull some of that stuff out. And actually the minutes this last time were AI generated from the transcript. I did a little bit of editing on them, but that's why I'm hoping people paid attention to what's in them and you can make sure that they're correct. Because AI, is known to have hallucinations sometimes, so you have to be a little careful with it, right? But anyway, all right. So revisiting definitions. Chuck sent out the main ones that we were talking about this time had to do with housing because there was discussion within the housing committee about they didn't like the way we had revised the attainable. I think we'd gone to attainable housing. So the suggestion is that we end up with these three definitions that you sent out, right?
If people are true.
Right. Nan, did you get that email from Chuck?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
You want me to put it up?
Yeah, if you can. Or I can, one of us can.
Yeah. If I have, just let me share the screen if you want me
Yeah,
to do
hold
it.
on.
You should be able to now, Nan.
Okay. And all right. So these are the three definitions. I mean, they seem fine to me. I don't. Nan, did you? I mean, is there anything that you can think of that there'd be any issues with these being defined as the way they are?
No, I had no issues with them.
Okay. Anybody else have issues? So this would replace. We currently just have attainable housing. Is that the only definition we have in there?
I have to look. I mean, and the reason why we used attainable housing from the very beginning was really only because there's a lot of baggage that often goes along with affordable housing that
Right.
we tried to find something that would not have that kind of baggage. But yeah, so we have attainable in there. We did have a workforce housing.
We do have workforce.
Yep, there is workforce. So, and I don't think, I just go back and see if we,
I think we had combined affordable and attainable into attainable,
yeah,
I think is what we had done. So I would say, so what we're saying is replace what we currently have for attainable and workforce housing with the three definitions that we have for attainable, affordable, because these are just definitions, right? These are not saying there's, we then have to think about in places where do we reference these definitions, right? These, right, and here they're just definitions. They're just
correct.
what is affordable housing? What is attainable housing? We have to look at the code elsewhere to see when does it reference these definitions. Like when we start talking about requiring certain percentages of affordable or attainable housing or those kind of things. Those are the places that we'll have to reference these
Okay.
definitions.
Yep. All right, so I'll replace those two with these and add affordable housing in.
Right.
Okay.
The affordable and workforce housing are almost verbatim the HUD definitions, which
Right.
is, I think, a good thing to adhere
I
to.
think it is a good thing to adhere to them. Yes. I agree with that.
It turns out that the attainable housing is probably 99% correlated with workforce housing. It's
Right.
almost indistinguishable, but there's no official HUD definition for it, nor is there a state definition, so it's up to us. We can
Right.
define it in reference to almost any housing aspiration that people want to attain, and it could be low income, it could be the missing middle, or it could be even high income.
Right. Okay. Everybody agree with that? Everybody's okay with that? You guys okay with that? Okay. All right. That was quick.
Good.
Get through that. Okay. On to the red line. Now I do have a bunch of comments from a couple people. Cheryl, do you want to, in the purpose, you felt some things were very repetitive?
Yes, and I had, there's, to me, there seems to be a lot of redundancy in it. I proposed that some edits that would pare it down somewhat.
Are you talking about the purpose statements in 270, 2.1?
270, 11.5.
Oh, 11.5.
Sorry, yeah, I think that's where we're picking up, right? Is 11.5 or, oh wait, no, did I miss something? Hold on, let me look at the agenda again. I may have jumped ahead, sorry.
It's okay.
Oh no, we're starting with section 270, 11.5, right? Yeah, we're starting with section 270,
Yes.
11.5.
Yep.
Modified site plan review. And I can give you here the suggested. This is what you wanted to suggest, right?
Yeah.
What's in this email? I pasted it into the chat, Nan.
Okay.
And then actually, if you want to bring up, do you want to bring up the red line?
Yeah.
Just so we
Yep.
can-
Let me just share this again.
So this is modified site plan review for 3 and 4 plex dwellings.
And the reason this was added in, just as a tiny background, was in an effort to promote more housing. And one of the ways to promote more housing is to not bog down housing review projects in, really difficult review procedures like special use or site plan. And so the effort to recognize that 3 and 4-plex dwellings are those that pretty much function like a single family home in terms of its size and where it can go, and that it doesn't need, typically they're more accepted in the community, and they don't have the same kind of impacts that large multifamily developments with multiple structures have. So the modified site plan review process is an effort to streamline the review process so these could be encouraged.
Okay. So Cheryl suggested some modified wording to the purpose statement, just to, I think, make it more concise. Is that the idea?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm okay with leaving it as is if other people aren't bothered by the redundancy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we make it less, want to make sure that everyone understands what we're trying to accomplish with it.
Right. And then there's a question. So in this case, we're saying in Cheryl's version, the modified site plan review process has been established to promote 3 and 4-plex style dwellings that will provide more affordable housing opportunities. Spring was wondering if it should be attainable, but I think in this case, we're not using the affordable housing definition here.
Okay.
Right? This is just saying, this isn't saying,
You're not trying to pick one, or you're not trying to use a word to tie to those definitions.
right.
Yeah.
It-
You might want to take the
We're
word
just saying
housing
more
out,
housing
just-
opportunities.
or more affordable opportunities.
More affordable, right? Is that, well, that's what it says. Provide more affordable housing opportunities.
You said,
Just leave out the affordable, just more housing.
More available housing opportunities.
Because you're right. I mean, we don't want to be confusing and saying where people are confusing the term affordable housing. Because in this case, we're just saying we want lots of affordable options, not defining affordable housing, like what affordable
Yeah.
housing is, right?
we would,
Right.
or you could just say to increase housing opportunity.
Increase housing opportunities. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
that's fine. Yeah, that way we're not causing that confusion of using the
Yep.
affordable housing,
Right.
right? Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Any other comments on purpose statement?
I noticed the environmental resource reference. And I wondered at first what that meant, and then later on I see natural resources in multiple locations. So I figured that was one and the same, and just wanted to check to see if I was right on that or not. And if it is, do we just make it all natural resources?
In Cheryl's suggestion, she says enhanced protection of natural and scenic resources is the way she puts it. I think they are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, scenic is part of environmental. I mean, if you look at seeker, scenic and aesthetic impacts
Right.
are part of the environment, but you could, you know, it might not be a bad thing to just make sure that the scenic part is included in it so everyone recognizes that's a goal. But
Right.
you can make them either um instead of environmental resources, you could say that still minimizes or avoids adverse impacts to the environment.
How about just put the period after impacts, avoids adverse impacts?
Yes, sure.
Is that clear enough? I think so.
Also, I'm just curious because I'm new at all this. The modified site plan review, is that an industry standard?
Yes, I mean, there's lots of times that communities use a modified site plan review. Many communities use it for agricultural, like where they don't want to do like a whole full site plan review for, say, a farmer that's putting in a tap room or something. So it's a modified site plan review, but many communities are using it just as we have here to as a technique to allow for some review, but to streamline the process so it's not onerous. So yes, it's certainly something that we didn't invent for here.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm on the same page with everyone else. Is the streamlining the fact that it doesn't go to the town board, it stays with the planning board?
By not requiring an SUP, it stays with the planning board. Although one of the things we've talked about is making a recommendation, and I don't know if the town board would take it, but making a recommendation that SUPs also are done by the planning board for the most part. I think there's some cases where they wanted to keep them with the town board, but but yes, the idea here is that this, well, there's two things. Site plan reviews can be very in-depth, right, and have a lot to them. And so the idea with this modified one is to make it, number one, so you don't have to go through the whole SUP process, which is even more complex, right, and before the town board. And then, or a, long, drawn out, intense site plan review. This is it's essentially a simplified site plan review so that developers don't have to go through as much to have them reviewed. So there is a review, but it's not as detailed a review as we would do for, say, a major subdivision or some other types of development, right? For example, just to give you an example, the apartment complexes on 366 going into Varna, right? There's a couple of them that are new in there. Those were very detailed, multi-month, drawn out site plan reviews. The idea here is to make it so if somebody was going to do build fourplex instead of.
Who decides if it's going to be a modified approach? Planning board?
Well, but it's defined in here so that this is used the idea here is this modified site plan review will be used in a case where a developer wanted to build 3 or 4 plex dwelling units that sort of look like a regular house, not a big apartment building, not big multifamily housing. These are specific to 3 and 4 plexes. Because even with duplexes now, there's, if somebody wants to build a duplex, that it's not as intense that's really, and if somebody wants to build a single family home, that really,
Nothing.
there's no site plan review, right? That's just with the building code people, right? Is a duplex the same thing? Do we have to do,
The footnote says it is.
I think they can build a duplex without any kind of site plan review.
So, yeah.
So if you have a lot and you just want to build a duplex, it's really just with the code enforcement. You need a building permit and all those kind of things. You don't have to go through the whole site plan review process.
So it's scale sensitive.
Correct.
As it goes up.
Right,
more
right.
rapidly.
So now when you start getting into, say, a 20 unit townhouse or something along those lines, yeah, that's going to be a much more in-depth, detailed site plan review.
And one of the other reasons why this was carved out is because according to the New York State Building Code, any structure that has 3 or more units in it is considered a commercial building. So that's why, the multifamilies trigger other kinds of reviews. And so we kind of pulled out, so these are still considered multifamily, but we're treating them as different than, say, a 10 or 20 unit multifamily building.
Right. Right. The idea is to encourage this type of development, make it easier to do. All right.
Hey, Tony, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, my speaker was off. I don't like ending the sentence as impacts because it rings out impacts to what? So just put to the environment, I think is okay.
Okay.
If you
Do
don't
we
mind.
care about impacts on traffic?
Well, traffic's part of the environment, isn't it?
Right.
Your whole
yes.
environment is huge.
Okay.
Traffic, that would be part of seeker and all that anyway.
Okay.
Yes.
Traffic and all that kind of things.
Although you are aware of the changes that the legislature made in the budget to seeker and housing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that does change the situation for seeker.
Right.
Those pass. And did those pass?
Oh, yes, it did.
Okay.
Then the idea was to make seeker less onerous for housing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. In the case
But
of
the onus of whether certain housing items get exempt from seeker still rests with the planning board. So you guys are going to have to become familiar with the complexities of what they now say could be exempt versus not exempt from seeker. It's not a cut and dry kind of thing.
oh boy. Sounds
Yeah,
like
that's one of the issues that I see with it is that responsibility falls on the planning board to make that decision.
got it. I did do a session on that at the that conference we were at, New York Planning Federation conference.
Do some.
But what exactly it all means, I'm still a little
Yeah.
up in the air about,
I
right?
think everybody is actually.
Yeah. Well, and I think the person presenting was saying that they were still a little up in the air about what it all meant, but
Yeah. It wasn't written well. It's
and that
not
was
very
before,
clear.
and that was before it was approved, right? So
Yeah.
or passed. So all right. So are we all set with purpose? Applicability. Did Cheryl, you made a
Yeah,
note.
question on the application. Right now, requires the applicant to provide 7 copies. And it, as I read it, it implies 7 hard copies. Is that what we want? Or do we just
It's
want an
obsolete,
electronic?
Cheryl.
Yeah,
I think that's obsolete.
that's kind of what I thought.
Digital copy.
So do you want like any paper copies or just a digital copy?
What's
One
that?
paper, one digital.
One paper, one digital.
And if we're gonna change that here, we should probably change it elsewhere because that same language is used for site plan review and special use permits.
Okay. Let's make a note to do that. Because I think that's what you're doing now, right? Is
Yes.
we really just need,
People don't give us 7 copies, please.
yes,
Jeez.
Agrees.
yes. So yes, because we're distributing all this stuff digitally. So I think having, yeah, we don't really need 7 paper copies anymore.
Okay.
Can you insert copy after paper and make copies single after digital? Thanks.
So if someone were to acquire request information through FOIA, would the digital copies suffice? Or would the town then have to print out everything that had gone on around it?
Digital should be fine.
Okay.
I mean, as long as it's an accurate representation of what was,
Mhm.
yeah. I think in most FOIL requests, everything's given to people digitally anyway, right? They don't print it all out. It's usually, yeah. 10 days is when we still want it, right? That's, yeah.
Is that what you use kind of for all your other applications?
Is that 10 business days or 10 calendar days?
They're usually 10 calendar days.
It's 10 calendar days.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Uh, E. Any other,
Going down to E.
going down to E?
We have the planning board disseminating things. In
Yeah,
paragraph. 2
actually,
and-
we don't. Well, I don't know. Is it the planning board doing when like the staff does this, the town staff does this stuff?
What in E?
Talk about. Yeah,
Right, right. But
yeah, we try to make sure they submitted everything they're supposed to.
but it says,
Which paragraph in E are you
If a
reading?
if a public hearing is held, then if you go halfway down in paragraph 2,
Oh, yeah.
Well, it doesn't really matter who does it. I mean,
Okay.
those are the rules as to, you have to
Right.
have a 5-day notice before a public hearing.
right.
So
No, the issue is that the last sentence says the planning board takes care of the mailing, which
we
We
don't.
don't.
It's town staff takes care of it.
can we just say by the town?
Yeah, I would say by the town, then it's, yeah.
and there's a similar thing in the next paragraph.
Are you guys expecting that builders would build only one of these things on a lot? Or would they?
Yes, these are only one building. This modified site plan review is for just one 3 or 4 unit building. Anything beyond that goes into, you know, an apartment complex.
Housing review, right? Right. So this is where you're building a 3-plex or a 4-plex,
One structure.
one
On
structure
a lot.
on a lot. Yeah. Is this right? Mail to all are you mailing to all contiguous property owners at least 10 days before the opening of a public hearing? You are doing that? Okay.
That is right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, not in my head.
Yep. Okay.
Hear that on.
Yes. I acknowledge the yes, but you're right. We need to say it so we get it in the transcript, right? Okay. Yeah, I think using by the town, because then even if, you know, if something changes in the future or whatever, it's fine. It's still, whether it's town staff or it's the planning board or the town, whoever it
Right.
is, it's the town doing
Right.
it. Yep,
Okay.
that's fine. F. There's a question in F, which is, do we need or want to prohibit ADUs on the same parcel? We talk about ADUs at all? Oh,
Yeah, it's in 3, no ADUs. Yeah, I mean, just, you know, you can do whatever you like. Typically, ADUs are not allowed and they're not associated with multifamily units.
Right.
But that's up, you know, if you want to allow them for the 3 or 4 plex, that's a policy decision to make.
Well, it seems like if you start doing ADUs on a lot with multifamily housing, it's more multifamily housing.
Right.
What's the difference between that and like adding a tiny home or a group of
Yeah.
tiny homes or yeah,
Well, and then you have to decide, like, does that mean that every unit in the 3 or 4 plex gets an ADU, or is it just
Yeah.
one? It gets to be very complex to
Yeah,
figure
no.
out.
Right. ADUs are generally associated with single family housing, right? Where I have a house on a lot and I want to add an ADU.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with the answer being no. I just thought it was a question that was worth having a
Right.
conscious decision on.
Right. No, I think it's a good question.
If I own the property and I want to put up a 3 or 4-plex, I want to live in it, but I want one of my family members to live in a tiny home on the same property. Can I not do that?
You can, but it wouldn't be an ADU in that case. It would have to go through a regular site plan review.
Because she said tiny, was that?
Well, because it's adding it now, you've got a 4-plex. Let's say you got a 4-plex, now you're adding another dwelling unit.
So she could do it, but she'd need a site plan review.
Right, because then it would be,
And then what would you be looking for in the site plan review?
all those things we normally look for in a site plan review.
So
Does it
it's probably.
setbacks and all those.
It's a good place. She probably could do it, right?
Can they do it?
Well, don't you have something in here that I'd have to go back and find it, but don't you have something that there shall be only one principal use per parcel? You don't have that. Okay.
Would that be
Many
another
communities
use?
do.
Would that be another, but
That sounds odd, though.
it becomes, I guess in that case, it becomes a mixed,
Yeah, then you're mixing on one parcel a single family home and a 3 or 4 plex unit.
right?
structure. So you really are you're mixing two different uses on the same parcel.
But they're still dwellings.
Yeah, but your use table treats them differently.
So she could subdivide the parcel and then put the other house.
Oh, you could subdivide the parcel, yeah. Assuming that the parcel is subdividable, meaning that it maintains all setbacks and all those other, things that happen.
Or a variance from it.
Yeah.
Would your answer to Marie have been different if she had said a duplex plus an ADU? It sounded like because she was
Yeah.
at a tipping point, it was becoming more complicated. If she,
So Nan, this tipping point, 3 or more units is considered multifamily housing.
Yes.
Now that's true whether it's a 3-plex or 4-plex, or whether it's 3 tiny homes, or whether it's if you put 3 single family homes on a lot, 3 or 4, is that still considered a multifamily housing?
No,
Right?
no, no, those would still be single family residences. That would be like, like a clustered cottage, or a kind of arrangement where you have a bunch of small single family homes on one parcel. That would be like a cottage kind of development. They're not subdivided into lots. They're just multiple single family homes on a parcel. So that would be like, so multifamily comes from the number of units in one structure.
In one structure, okay.
Mhm.
and if one of those structures was a duplex, can that go ahead, or would that then change?
Well,
Yeah, I couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah, if one of the cottages, so to speak, were in fact a duplex, would that change what you said?
No, because the duplexes would be 2. So that would not be considered a multifamily
Right.
development.
So you could have so you could have an ADU with a duplex.
I don't know if we address that anywhere in this,
Right.
actually. We'd have to go look at the accessory dwelling section here and see what we said about that. Let's see.
I can,
Gonna have grandma living in the garage.
So
can-
it says under 13.11, it says the principal use must be of a single family dwelling. That's the language you have
So
now.
ADUs can only be put on a lot with a single family dwelling.
That's what you have now. We didn't change that.
Right.
So
And
that's
number
why
number 2 says only one ACU shall be permitted on any lot.
right.
So yeah, and it says right there, parcels where principal use is a multifamily dwelling shall not be eligible for ADU. So no, you can't put an ADU on even a duplex, on a lot with a duplex. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't, right? Can't somebody propose a development which has mixed types of housing? Types of
Sure.
dwellings?
Yeah, as long as it's allowed in that zoning district.
Right.
Yeah, but those typically would not be, I mean, they could be subdivided onto its own lot. So let's say you did a conservation subdivision and you got 10 units out of it, and you wanted to have 5 single family homes in one building that has 5 units in it. You could mix and match those to maximize, to use the total number of units you're eligible for.
Well, and the same would be true for a multifamily development, right? If it's all on one lot, but it's not subdivided,
Right.
you could propose a development, but that's going to go under the multifamily. That's going to go under a full site plan review
Correct.
if somebody does that,
Correct.
which goes
Right.
back to what I said earlier, right? So it's, someone can propose that's what they want to do with a property, but that's different type. That's a site plan review. That's a
Yeah,
different.
that's a totally different kind of
Right.
land use than what we're talking about with the 3 and 4 plexes.
With the 3 and 4-plex, right?
Trying
Exactly
to
right.
avoid this site plan review, is that because you want to let people not have to hire the
Correct.
all those people that
Yeah.
have to be?
Well, and go through the whole, it's a drawn out process, you know.
So
Uh,
it adds several.
The idea is we're trying to remove barriers for
Right,
housing
to
development.
make it so they
Yeah.
put in the proposal and they have to maybe wait a month or two before they start building.
Okay.
I mean-
I'm okay declaring victory on the answer to my question being
No.
no,
So, Tony?
Yeah.
or yes, we do want to prohibit them.
Yes, we do want to prohibit them. Yes.
While we're on accessory dwelling units, 1311, number 1.
Yeah.
That is confusingly worded. Because it says the principal use of the structure, what structure is that? Is that the accessory dwelling or is that the house? Just the principal use of the structure must be that of a single family dwelling. That sounds to me like that means the principal use of the ADU must be that of a single.
Of the primary structure?
That's not the intent, but that's correct. So it should be the primary structure should be added.
Is that the right word, primary structure?
That would make it
Much
Yeah.
clearer.
Where are you reading?
We're in 11, 13, 11,
number 1, Dan.
number 1.
And what are you saying that it should be?
The principal use of the primary structure.
No, it's the principal use of the parcel.
Oh, you've changed it to say lot.
Yes,
Oh.
Principal use of the lot.
Yeah.
Is that of a single? family.
Yes, we could change that to parcel.
I think parcel is a better word.
Anything's better than structure.
Anything's better than structure. Yes, got it. Okay,
Okay.
good. All right. Now back to where we were.
We were on F.
We were on F, and I think that's does anybody have any other suggestions for what are we at 11.5? I think those, Chuck.
I thought where we started was whether we could have ADUs or triplexes and quadruplexes. And it seems like we have two different issues. We want densification and we want affordability. So that would suggest that more ADUs would probably contribute to that. On the other hand, it kicks it upstairs into a site plan review rather than a modified. So there's more.
Right, but ADUs don't apply to multifamily housing. They just don't apply.
Oh, maybe I misheard that. I thought we were talking about that 10 minutes ago.
We were, but when you look at the definition of an ADU and the regulation under an ADU, they do a lot that has a multifamily dwelling on it is not eligible for ADUs.
Is it up to us to consider whether we want to change that? That is the way.
Well, but if you think about what an ADU is, it really doesn't apply to multifamily housing.
I admit it seems kind of strange if you had a triplex and let's say 2 members of the 3 families
Mhm.
wanted to have ADUs. Even if the parcel allowed spatially and the infrastructure.
Well, that would assume that people, how would you do? Because you got 3 you got 3 or 4 families in there. Do each of them own a piece of the lot?
It might, well, each of them might own part of the building, and so that's probably where it gets
It'd be like a
confusing.
condo, right? You own the space in the building. You don't own the lot. You're not the owner of the lot. How can you do an ADU?
With permission from the lot
Well,
owner.
If the 3 or 4-plex were a rental and the owner wanted to live on site, but not in the 3 or 4-plex,
which is conceivable.
would be a scenario.
So wouldn't that be them coming and asking for a waiver or a special?
That would be that would be a different kind of development. It wouldn't be an ADU.
Yeah, that would be, then you would have to think of, then, then it's got two principal uses. I mean, so do you allow now more than one single family on any parcel? So if someone owned enough land now without any of these changes, can they come to the town and say, I want to build 5 single family houses on my property for me and my children? Do you
Yes, they
allow
can do
that
that.
without subdivision?
Not without subdivision.
Yeah, so
He said it had to do with the septic tank. You have you might have a septic tank for
Well,
that.
but it has to
single
go through,
family.
it has to go through a site plan review and it has to be subdividable.
right.
Because the
Subdividable.
idea is if you build these houses and you want to sell one of them, the lot has to be, the parcel has to be subdividable.
Right.
So in that case, you're going through a full site plan review. I mean, that's how you get into this, right? Is that
Yeah.
is that there's these things that happen. Whereas if it's a triplex or a quadplex, the idea is that's already on its own lot. That can be sold and whatever. It can be rentals or they can be condos. But
The owner wanted to move on. There's nothing that says that he couldn't go through the variance procedure and whatever you require for that to be.
he could request to build a small house. It wouldn't be an ADU. He could request to build a small house on that parcel, assuming that it can be, we'd have to go through a site plan review and it would have to be subdividable and all that other fun stuff. But yes, you could. I mean, this is really very similar to what the guy just did with those
Mhm.
4 duplexes, right? He had 4 duplexes on the site and he subdivided off a single family home. In that case, he subdivided it off, but but didn't he put
He had 3
But-
and then he added a 4th.
Yes,
He-
he had.
he added 1 single family, right? Right.
I think there was an existing single family.
Right. But again, it's a site plan review process to do that. And if you do that, the parcel has to be subdividable. You have to show that should you want to sell these things individually, they could be subdivided and sold individually.
I don't know if it would be helpful to remember that an ADU is different than a tiny house because the ADU is actually tied into the infrastructure of the other building. Like you're
Right.
sharing electric, sharing plumbing. So once you build that ADU, you can't, it's like attached with an umbilical cord to the main building. So you can't separate it out. That's different than a tiny house. They might be the same size, but
Right.
that's, I think, where there's a nuance there.
Yeah, that's a really important point. The definition of an accessory dwelling unit is that it's an accessory to the principal structure on the property.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, it's not subdivided.
So ADUs don't apply in the case of 3-plex and 4-plex. But yes, if somebody wanted to do that where they had a single family structure dwelling and had a 4-plex on the property, yes, but it would be a full site plan review. They wouldn't go through this modified site plan review.
When you build an ADU, I always thought those were going to be, they were thought of as somewhat temporary, but does everybody think of them more as permanent?
Well,
Depends.
There for a while, there was like a lot of zoning that was out there, like you could have it, but only for X amount of time.
Yeah,
And there were
like the eco
companies that were, like,
housing.
renting them, but that kind of has died off. It's really about that additional property, temporary or not.
We had that in our code called elder cottages, where when the use ceased, you had to dismantle it. Pretty wasteful.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, and those turned out, those were kind of like the precursor to current regulations for accessory dwelling units, and the eco units. They were way too hard to administer and enforce because they were specifically for senior citizens and for family members, and that they had to be removed when that person was no longer using it. It just, they were not really workable.
Right.
Yeah, that's too much, too much.
And, right, an ADU could be, like, you could build an ADU for a family member. The way our current code works, though, they could, if that family member no longer lived there, you could turn it into a short-term rental if you wanted to. Nothing that stops somebody from doing that. But they wouldn't be able to subdivide it off. An ADU, they can't subdivide off, so they couldn't just sell the ADU. But,
Oh, you mean that somebody take it away?
well, they could sell it if somebody took it away, like if it was a mobile structure.
Right.
But if it's, yeah. But there's nothing that says an ADU is temporary, right?
No, they're, yeah, we don't have that in there.
I mean, yeah,
It could just be a big doghouse.
yeah, right,
It's not necessarily movable,
right.
but it's got an umbilical cord.
Well,
All right.
it's gotta be, if it's gonna share the water and septic, it's gotta be pretty close.
Okay, where are we? Anything else on 11.5, modified site plan review? All right. 12.1, special use permit. So currently, special use permit is with the town board.
Right.
But we talked about making a recommendation that it be with the planning board. Except in I think what I heard when I mentioned that to certain town board members, that there was, that there's certain things that they would probably still want to have special use permits be for them. And one example is like solar. I think they wanted under this, but that's covered under the solar law, right?
But the point is that it's regional or more than parcel specific, then the town board, I wouldn't have had that.
Right.
I would think also if it's a new use in the county, or sorry, in the township, where it doesn't currently exist, so like community solar was a new type of
Right.
thing, right? So it seems like that would be something that would come with, the data centers was a new type of thing. So I would think things that are new I would personally would think should go to the town board.
So new uses which are not covered in our code should go to the town board.
Well, yeah, but a new use is not anticipated in the code. You have to go to the use table and look and see what's allowed. So if there's some new use that's not in the use table, then it's technically not allowed in town until the town board changes the zoning and allows for it.
Right.
So yes, I agree that those kinds of things, need scrutiny by the town board, but just to
Right, so
say,
new
well,
uses-
new uses
right.
have to go to the town board, that we don't know what, I mean, that just leaves it wide open.
Right, the planning board cannot, let's say for the sake of argument, the planning board did special use permit reviews.
Right.
The planning board cannot approve for a use that isn't defined. So if there's a new use,
There needs to be a process of.
there needs to be a process for that, right?
Right.
But the planning board could not
Right.
issue anything because it's not defined as a
Right.
use.
At the same time, I know we had, I was first on the board, and we have this wonderful woman trying to start a business, and she had to wait like extra months to get ahead of the town board just to get permission to hang the sign out. Cause her sign didn't, it was like, that's just ridiculous. Like someone shouldn't have to wait to start their business to get the sign hung up in front of their building.
Yeah.
That I would think that this board should handle things like that. So how you tweeze through that, I guess, is the hat trick, right?
Right. So the intent here, but there was, like, for example, I said, I think special use permits for solar, I think what I heard from the town board is they felt, well, especially from Jason, is they felt that for things like that, it should still be with the town board. But for most of the special use stuff, which is, you know, like special use permits for things like the, yeah,
So maybe there's a threshold where it's like, if it's related to utilities or a building that's gonna cost more than $4 million. I'm just throwing out random thoughts, like, you know, should there be thresholds of size or square footage or cost? Look at you.
Or maybe you could say that the town can, or it has a discretion to hand down SUP decisions to planning board.
But that requires that it first go to the town board.
Yes.
Well, the question is like, when does it have to get elevated up?
Yeah.
Versus when can you guys just make the decisions on it so that people in the community aren't held up from things that.
yeah, I mean, if things are generally defined, then it seems like the planning board could handle it, right? Because it's just, these are all things which are defined.
Yeah.
And the special use permit process goes kind of hand in hand with your site plan review. So
Right,
they're always done concurrently. So
right,
it's one application. So the person comes into the planning board with one application, and the processes are integrated. And there's a set of standards for site plan, and there's a set of criteria for special use. And so you would do them kind of all together. So from an applicant's point of view, it's a lot more efficient.
right. That's the intent, is to make it more efficient.
I mean, we could say, you know, if there's special, you could go through the use table like solar or telecommunications towers or some of these things that you want the town board to be the reviewer. We can list those. We can you know, we can either make a note of that in the use table itself, or write it in this section here.
Yeah, I like that idea, actually.
The idea of putting it in the use table?
Well, no, the idea of defining specific uses that where the town board would do it. I think that's easier than trying to put like dollar numbers on. I think it's really more about uses. But I mean, yeah, could do it either way. Ultimately, we got to get this by the town board, right? Because right now the town board has it. They can say, no, we want to keep doing it. It's perfectly fine if that's what they want to do. So Cheryl's question in this was, you know, it either needs to say planning board or town board throughout, because right now it's unclear. But right now, I think it mostly says town board, right? I think in general, it should say planning board. But we need to define, I know there are some specific cases that the town board wants to keep it. And so I think we need to define what those are. But I don't know that we need to do that tonight.
I was gonna say, do we
Yeah.
need to do that, or do we need to ask them?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is I was gonna say, here's what we're thinking. You know, under what cases do you think, and I was gonna ask that of Jason and Dan and them and the town board and say, under what cases do you think the town board needs to retain that, and then see what we think, whether we agree. We can recommend whatever we want. We can say, no, the town board should never do a special use permit. I don't know that that would fly with the town board because they have to pass this, right? But um, but all right, so I think that in general, Nan, as far as this piece goes right now, the main thing we want to do is make sure that it says planning board
Okay,
instead of town board through this. And then we will add a section that defines that special use permits are with the town board, however we want to word that, in these certain circumstances, but we haven't defined those certain circumstances yet. So I don't know if you want to add like a placeholder for that.
yeah, I'll
or-
add a placeholder for it and then you
Yeah,
can figure it
it's
out
just-
as we go, right?
But it's going to be it's going to be a relatively small subset of cases where the town board would do this. But yes, Chuck,
I'm embarrassed to ask this question. but,
yes.
We're only talking about private lands, right? Town lands. Zoning has nothing to do with town lands. Am I right?
With town lands, can the town do whatever it wants on town land without
If the.
thinking
if the
about
town wanted
zoning?
Fairground back together, would it have to undergo seeker review or?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and like, a lot of school districts just kind of go and do whatever they want, but there have been court cases that show that no, they really do have to follow the zoning laws of the community.
Right, right. So the
So
town, if the town wanted to build a shopping mall,
They
it
have
would
to
seem
seek
like it would have to go through the same process as any other.
Would it be subject to zoning?
Yes. Seems like it should be.
the public hearing.
Yeah, I would think so.
Second question. Well, the shopping center, would that be a new use? Who would say that, based on scale or commercial value or some other criterion that that is a new use? Or, a carnival site or a dirt bike site, something that we might not have yet. Would that by definition be new? Or would it, if it's not?
No, we define large retail operations like stores and things like that. Those are defined. Would a motorcycle park be a new use? I don't know. Probably. But if it's a new use, then it's technically not allowed.
Well,
And-
so then they would have to go to the town. Well, I guess the town board ultimately to ask that it be added to the definitions.
Correct.
So
right.
they do it.
Add it to the use table. Because it's the
I mean-
use table that defines it. So if it's a use, if you can put it in as a use, then, but remember, I hate to bring this up, but the data center thing in Lansing, right? Remember, the ZBA was charged with, is this an acceptable use in our zoning? And they were able to find a defined use that they felt the data center fit into. Many people disagree with that,
After like multiple tries.
but they did manage to come up with, the ZBA anyway came up with, right, they felt it was something that was defined in their zoning.
But and they had to send the letters out to all the neighbors.
Yeah.
And have hearing and,
Yep, they did.
yeah, in my neighborhood, we're concerned about the house that was apartments that the guy would like to have it be apartments still, but it's zoned single family. It was grandfathered. The
Mhm.
apartments were grandfathered, but when they depopulated it totally, the grandfathering was gone. So for him to make it apartments again, it would have to be a variance, I guess. Special use, right?
Well, it would come under multifamily rental more than which, yeah, I think once they get to be a certain size, it would be a special use permit, right?
And you'll have the whole neighborhood there. Oh, it's been abandoned multiple years, and if you have the hearing, all of my neighborhood will show up to object. We will all object.
Is
And then-
is that the property that is rural residential? Or is it in the conservation zone?
If it's rural residential, but it's Cornelius's old house
Mhm.
and the barn, which the neighborhood doesn't want anything in there because the last population was drug addicts and rapists, and that was all the people who couldn't find housing anywhere else, but it was.
Yeah, but this kind of stuff makes it hard for people to build housing, doesn't it?
It does. And when you go.
The
past
neighbors
it, you see
object to it.
The
Yep.
cop with the gun and the social services there, and you know that it's a drug bust with kids. That's. And you just go, I'm gonna go home and stay on my side of the property. Yeah.
But yes, that would be a special use permit. They'd have to go through a site plan review and all that other fun
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know if it would be a zoning variance because multifamily housing is allowed in that zone, right? It's rural residential.
It was zoned single family, we were told.
Can't be.
Well, it can't be single family. Can't be zoned single family. It could be zoned rural residential, but is rural residential all single family?
Checking.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything with that property,
Yeah.
and so, but he did mow the lawn this year.
Yeah. All right, we're sidetracking.
So I'll go through and make the changes
Having applied to rural.
to planning board and leave a placeholder.
If it's subdividable, it could be multifamily. Oh.
Oh, so if it's subdividable.
Mhm.
Well, the
But we
house
have
is
to go
only
through
on
full.
1 acre, so that's not subdividable, is it?
No.
So, and then if it's the barn that got converted to 7 apartments.
So if the owner is putting in some kind of a application, then you probably talk to the local health folks.
I don't know if he did or not.
Yeah.
I just know he bought, and he was saying that's what he wanted to do, and we pointed out that it wasn't. Well, we don't want him to do anything with it. We're very happy to have him not do anything with it. We'd rather not have the public hearing. So,
Would be nice to have more housing.
So the other things that I added in this section, again, just for background, that are, if you look at the state authorizing legislation for special use permits, there's very set processes and requirements for either the planning board or the town board to follow. So I added those in because they were missing. So all of these things that were added in here reflect the requirements from state authorizing law.
That's talking about the fees and the county
fees,
239 review.
the
and all
area
that.
variance is, yes, all of these things were added in, the public hearing. They're all outlined in that. And so that's pretty much just what was added in was process, like all of these things under town board action, the time of the decision, the type of decision, the filing requirements, those are all kind of just standard special use permit language
Okay.
that weren't in your current law.
All right.
Okay.
But the main thing is we're recommending that it be planning board action.
Yes,
not
I'll go
town.
back and change these all.
Yep. That's fine. So that's a big change. And then, like I said, a placeholder that says under certain circumstances, it'll be town board, not planning board, but
Yep, okay,
but we don't know what those circumstances are yet.
right, okay.
All right. So that's 12. So 12 is all special use permit.
Yep,
Anything else on special use permits?
Nope.
In the 239 review, can the county, if it objected all to development, or is it advisory only?
239.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
So Chuck, if the county can put conditions on it, and sometimes they can also put advisory statements.
Mhm.
So they can put conditions that can only be overridden by a super majority of the board.
Right.
And then they can put recommendations that are weaker, that can either be adopted or not.
So we can override them, but it requires, if they make a recommendation that's not a advisory, we would need a supermajority of the board to override that. We can override it, but you need a supermajority of the board to do
If
that.
you're, yeah, it's a majority override county, you're very sure of what you're doing because you might need to have someone challenge that.
Right.
The county would come back.
No.
No,
The resident. would probably come back.
some resident could say, you didn't, they could file an Article 78, right? Yeah, they could basically file a lawsuit saying you didn't follow what,
Using the county's.
Right,
opinion.
right.
You didn't have good enough.
right. So overriding the county recommendations comes with certain risks.
Mhm.
Can do it, but
Well, we're lucky that our latest version of comprehensive planning conforms so closely to the counties. As far as I understand it. That smile might indicate otherwise, but
No, I'm not saying anything. Chuck.
well, that's my impression. I've tried to look into that a bit. So anyway, let's go on.
What kinds of things does the county end up having opinions on?
Anything with regional or wide impact.
So it'd be more like industrial stuff or?
It could be anything that they think has regional or area-wide impact.
They have their own comprehensive plan. And to the extent possible, it's great if the jurisdictions in the county are close at hand, and conform. For instance, nodal development. If we wanted to do a nodal development that was way off their map, they might be concerned about that. Right? And render an opinion that maybe that's not advisable. You don't have sewer and water there, or whatever the objection is.
Or you would be impacting neighboring.
Yeah.
So everything that gets put forward to the planning board has to get submitted to the county?
There are some, we have, agreement about exceptions for like area variances.
But a lot of stuff gets told to them somehow. Wow.
Yeah, it's based on if you're along a state or county highway, if you're in or within 500 feet of a New York State ag district. So there's criteria that have to be met in order for it to go to the county.
Percentage, some, do you think?
yeah, we do a lot of 239s. Yeah. Probably.
I was wondering if it might be
And-
criteria for us to go to court, but no.
And for the most part, they come back, it's either stuff we would recommend anyway, or minor recommendations, right? It's not,
I would think maybe that was a clue into what the criteria would be to send to the town.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
sounds like that's not
No.
the case.
no. So 13. 13 really gets into a lot of odd special use cases, and they're really not part of this. Most of these are not part of this phase.
Yeah, I
Because it
don't
talks
think,
about-
I'm just flipping through. I don't think we made any. Yeah, we took out the elder
We
cottage.
took out
We just-
Elder Cottage,
yeah,
yeah.
we talked about that.
But 13, it's about mining and automotive towing service and sound performance standards. Although I
Kennels.
have, there's an issue that's been brought to the town that has to do with noise that is going to be an interesting discussion. Has to do with noise of animals in an ag district. So that's going to be tricky.
Noise of the cows.
No, this is, well, but yeah,
I heard of the radio in the milking parlor.
yeah, no,
Increases the milk production.
it's, yeah. Well, it's something we're gonna have to think about is it's if you have someone that is how the noise ordinances apply when you're talking about ag districts, because for the most part, they don't, you know, the town cannot write a noise ordinance which impacts farming operations in an ag district under the right to farm law. The question becomes, what if it's in an ag district, but it's not really what's defined as an operational farm? And some of this, there's a whole bunch of different things related to this and this is what happens when you have residential neighborhood residential. Like, for example, my neighborhood is neighborhood residential in an ag district. And, you know, or what if you have houses, residences, subdivided residences that are in an ag zone and an ag district? How does all that apply, right? So gets a little tricky. How do the noise ordinances apply, right? I mean, I get it. If it's an operational farm, you know, if it's Beck's farm, it's a farm. It's an operational farm.
Decibel limit for your noise ordinance.
I'd have to look at it, but and then also there's also, it's not just decibels. It's also about persistence and length of time and hours, and there's a bunch of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, there's a whole bunch to it, and it's not something we're going to deal with here, but I know there's a question coming up that we're going to have to look at, which has to do with noise. But anyway, sorry, another sidetrack.
In this section, the next change that was really made was 13.11 in this whole article.
Which is about accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, which we went over some of them, but we haven't gone over all of the things that are in here.
Right, and the principal use, we decided that first one should be parcel, not lot, right?
Yep.
And
this is the one I think you definitely want to talk about. And
of 1,000 square feet.
Well, you know, some communities, I'd say many communities put a size limit, a maximum size limit on it to ensure that they are actually accessories. Small, because by definition they're secondary to the principal structure on the property. But you know, this may not be what you want.
How does this 1,000 square feet compare to what most communities do?
I think it's in range. That's why I picked it.
Right.
But you know, I'd say, you know, some communities allow more, but I'd say it's average.
Okay.
Do any communities do it in a way that compares to the primary structure? Like, in other words, it can't be larger than 80% of the square footage of the primary
that's another
structure?
that's a perfectly acceptable way to do it if you don't want to put a size on it.
Yeah, I think that's, rather than defining a set square feet, because you know, if the main house, or if the main dwelling is a 1,000 square, 1,200 square feet, you know, let's say it's 1,200 square feet, which there are a lot of, you know, 1,200 square foot ranches around, right? The you know, would you want them to be able to build 1,000 square foot? I like that idea of making it a percent, and is 80% the right number?
But what if it's the opposite, Tony? What if it's a 4,000 square foot home? Are you gonna allow them to have a 3,000 square foot ADU added to that? That's massive. The average, I just looked it up, the average two-car garage is between 400 and 576 square feet.
Right.
So you're looking at a double, like a four-car garage for 1,000 square foot. That seems more than adequate. I don't know if you want to do 80%. Then they're going to start playing with numbers. I don't know. You got to look at both sides. That's all I wanted to bring up.
You can say 80% up to that maximum.
Well, I'm wondering if 1,000 is big enough. I mean, and Chuck, I don't know, I would say, I don't know, from a housing perspective, it's an ADU. I mean, 1,000 square foot ADU to me seems more than sufficient for anything. But if you think about, if you're building the ADU for somebody with special needs and those kind of things, it may need more space than
And if you're building it with someone who needs a caregiver.
right.
That's what the
And
Court
the,
of Appeals,
What's that?
would that not be appealed?
you mean you could ask for a variance?
You could ask.
Yeah, that would be an area variance.
Yeah, you could do an area variance
Because I'm also thinking.
if you wanted it
somebody-
bigger than 1,000.
Why is it important? And understand I'm playing devil's advocate here. Why is it important for us to limit the size of the ADU?
I don't know. Same reason why you don't want apartments next to you.
Well,
mean-
because by definition, they're accessories.
Right,
And they
right,
have to be
but
subordinate.
Beyond, okay. Subordinate an area to the single family dwelling is already there.
Right.
So without the addition, it already has to be smaller than the primary dwelling. And I kind of think if we try to get too specific here, we're overdoing our specificity.
I agree.
I do too. What if somebody has a tiny home and wants to, needs to have their parent be there? You know, and the parent needs a space bigger than their tiny home.
Yeah, you can't do it. It's not an ADU then. It would be a new primary use,
They'd have to switch
The
houses.
tiny home becomes the ADU.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we could take this sentence. I added this sentence. You had already this, kind of setting,
It shall be subordinate in area.
subordinate
to single
area.
family.
If that's good enough to give people, the
So
direction.
the current code does not set a limit in size. It just says
Correct.
it has to be smaller than it
Correct.
cannot be, it has to be smaller in area. And there's also another one that says it can't be higher, right? Oh, no, that's you added that.
Yeah.
Shall be no higher. Because it's really meant to be a accessory building. It's not meant to be another palace or,
In area and height.
right?
What if somebody wants to put the ADU over a garage?
Yeah, they can be a detached
they-
building. They-
Okay, somebody wants to put the ADU over a garage, but the single family home, the primary residence is a single story home. In that case, the ADU would be taller, and why is that a problem?
Yeah,
No, I'm saying they're gonna build a garage with an ADU above it. So it would be a new structure next to a single family home.
You get a variance.
You could get a variance, I suppose. I guess myself, I would just leave it as subordinate in area to the single family dwelling and leave it at that.
Could live with that.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm just wondering if we need to set a maximum area.
Does area mean footprint?
No. Right? Area, I mean, because
Yeah, it's not defined.
it's not defined.
maybe it should say footprint.
I mean, if it's a single story structure, then yes, area is footprint, but it's a two-story structure, area is not footprint, right?
Well,
So
and except that the garage is something else, so the footprint happens to be elevated, but it's still a footprint.
yeah.
Livable square feet, like 1,500 livable square feet or something like that. Is that what you're thinking? I'm just randomly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we should say 1,500 or 2,000. But I'm wondering if we should put a maximum area on it. Because to Pat's example, if you have a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house, you have this big monster house, is an ADU a 2,500 square foot house, right? I mean, is that really an ADU?
Depends who you are.
I suppose somebody might think that could be an elder cottage for to certain people, that could be an elder cottage for their parents, right?
If you're Bill Gates and you want to put an ADU on your property for your parents or whatever.
And we're trying not to restrict ADUs all that much. I mean, I think saying subordinate in area to the single family dwelling, I think is.
You're gonna want to be able to subdivide it, right?
Oh, who knows, they're gonna get to choose.
I mean, you can't, you're not building a 10-bedroom
The
ADU.
simpler you make it, so you were saying, yeah, I like your subordinate, you want it subordinate, so subordinate in area, that does it.
I think
Except
subordinate-
area is not a good word, subordinate and footprint.
Is it subordinate in footprint or is it subordinate?
Or so then they could build a 6-story tower.
What did you say? Livable square feet, subordinate and livable square feet.
That sounds good.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, okay.
So you
Right.
want to get rid of these two last
Yeah,
sentences?
Yep. And the end height, just
Yep.
maximum size and accept, yeah. Yep, I think that's fine.
Have there been many requests for ADUs in Dryden?
Not a lot. And again, this is the current code says they shall be subordinate in area to the single family dwelling. And it hasn't been an issue. Nobody has tried to build a 4,000 square foot ADU.
Well, I'm, given the demographics of the town, the fact that we are heavy with baby boomers and people moving into the town, town in particular. I think leaving it as simple as possible accommodates that demographic.
Right. Who knows? I may want to put an ADU on my property. Live in it, and let my kids have the house. I don't know. Anyway. Max, what's the max occupancy there? That wasn't changed much. Oh, it's a single family dwelling. So you can't have like, you know, all your cousins and nieces and nephews and
Can have them in your house.
Can't have a regular family compound?
not with a single ADU.
Hey, Nan, in item 3, I think you had an extra space after single dash. Yeah. Thanks.
And there'll be when we clean this up, you know, there'll be other formatting things that when we accept the red line that we're going to have to go back and scrub through and fix.
Cool, thanks.
And I like the setback language change there.
I know we have all these things of tiny houses, but I keep thinking it's kind of silly. I mean, it's a house.
You're not wrong.
We exclude recreational vehicles as ADUs. I think we should.
Say that again.
We exclude recreational vehicles. A recreational vehicle cannot be used as an ADU.
Why not?
Explaining that.
Right?
It has to do with what?
Health department.
Oh, it's currently.
Yeah.
What do they not like about it?
An RV is not attached generally to a septic system or well or.
Yeah, I think there's fire code concerns too.
Now, if you park an RV in your driveway, how long can it be there before somebody complains?
Well, that's a whole other issue. In my driveway, they're not, my neighbors like me usually.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doug could complain,
All
I
right.
guess.
ADUs, well, and see, this goes to the subdividable thing. Detached ADUs shall not be sold separately from the primary dwelling unless it's subdivided.
The one that I think that you need to decide is this one, whether you want to have them reviewed in any way by the planning board. You know, the recommended way to address ADUs is to make them as simple as possible, and so they're just reviewed and permitted in the, you know, with the building department. But
I think that's, yeah, I think that's fine. Like I said, I agree. We don't want to, in general, we don't want to put a lot of restrictions on ADUs. We want to make them as easy as possible.
yeah,
All right.
and that's the end of that one.
I will say, so on 13, I didn't have anything to modify on 13. Let's see, did Cheryl have comments?
Yeah, I had some comments.
On which one are we on? 1312?
1312E 2B. What's the rationale for limiting lot coverage? I mean, a solar array doesn't render the ground impervious and vegetation grows beneath it. So why wouldn't we allow full coverage of the lot? If we're going to allow a solar array, why wouldn't we let it be as large as possible?
Well, isn't this
To
all
limit
our,
the number of places they have to be.
I mean, this is part of the law that you've had.
right?
We
this is
didn't
our
make that
law.
change,
Right. No, I understand.
right?
And actually, the only part of this that's part of phase one is the best stuff, right?
Okay. Then if it's out of scope, then it's out of scope.
I think it is because it's
Maybe we should say that again. What you said.
so
Sure.
the solar law,
Yeah.
the solar part of this is not part of phase one.
Mhm.
The battery energy storage is part of phase one
Mhm.
because we have the reason BESS is in phase one is because there are right now battery energy storage is not allowed in the town because it's a new use. And so the town board wants us to make a recommendation, just like we did on data centers, which they did their own thing on anyway, but they want us to make a recommendation on battery energy storage as well. So that's part of phase one. So the battery energy storage is part of phase one, but full review of the solar law is not part of phase one.
So currently, you said currently battery storage is not allowed in?
It's a new use, so it's not allowed.
Well, what about all the houses that have those?
This is commercial battery energy storage.
Oh, okay, it's very specifically commercial.
Correct. With the best law does not apply to battery energy storage used in single family residences, correct?
Well, I think that
I know of
We
several
do.
houses that have battery energy storage.
yeah, I mean, we split it up. This is modeled after the state model. The state model splits them up into 3 tiers, and the tier 1 are the battery storage like you would have in, if you wanted to have a battery storage for your house.
Right.
Or you wanted to have like a business wanted to have something for their building. So the way this is set up, we define the 3 tiers, but we allow tier 1 is permitted in all areas and exempt from site plan review. So those are,
Right.
those are just kind of you go and do.
And what are we doing? And that's not a new, so battery energy storage in your house is not a new use. The use of the property is single family home.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Battery energy storage facility is a new use because now this property is being used as a battery energy storage system. Am I defining that correctly? Right. So currently right now, I mean, like my next door neighbor put a battery energy storage system in, and I'm pretty sure he's got a building permit and all that. Yeah. Yeah. So he had to have it inspected and all that. So they're allowed. If you're doing battery energy storage in your house, that's allowed.
And they have.
But that's not a
inspection
new
requirements.
use. It's not a new use of the property.
Yeah,
Um,
just checking.
so anyway, sorry. Would that be an accessory unit? No, it's not a use, right? When it's a single family home and you're adding
Yeah, it
better,
would just be an accessory to that.
it would be an accessory use.
Uh,
It's not really a use.
yeah.
It's no different than your HVAC system.
Right,
Right.
right. If I change my
Just a
HVAC
system
system,
within your home.
right?
It's part of an system. It's
Yeah, yeah,
part of
it's-
an
yeah,
electrical
yeah.
system.
Yeah, so it's a building code matter. Yeah, okay. sorry, sidetracked. So battery energy storage is a section. In fact, I saw something, the town board is interested in seeing something on this soon, right? They want us to pull this out separately. Is that right? Battery energy storage?
Jason had asked.
Yeah, Jason had asked about it.
So.
So I'll ask Jason the question is, do they want it just as part of this of phase one is what we're doing in phase one, or do they want it pulled out separately like we did with conservation subdivision and data centers? Yeah, so anyway, I'll have to see what they want to do.
And that what you're talking about is something that's a facility battery storage, right?
Correct. This would be, what is it, tier 3?
Well,
tier two?
I went back and looked at it. I tried simplifying it by just having tier 1, which are, integrated into a building for that building's use, or tier 2, which are they could be either an accessory to a solar farm, or we're starting to see battery storage that are their own use. So there's not, it's not associated with a wind or solar facility. They're just, it is the principal use. So I made these just tier 1 and tier 2 to simplify it.
Right. Right. So tier 2 shall not be located in the following areas unless otherwise approved by the town board. So now this is one of those cases where I'm not sure if the town board wants to retain. This may be one where they want, because it is a special use permit. Be with the town board. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this would stay with the town board. Yeah, not that we couldn't do it, but I think, you're right. I think when you talk about utilities and, like again, solar, because solar can include battery energy storage or not. Right. Right. Right.
Take a look at 13, 12, 11B. As I read it, that doesn't
Wait,
make
which one?
13, 12, 11B.
About this one, about the property line?
Yeah, property line. The best property line and the property line of the nearest property, aren't they the same?
Well, what this is saying is that the fence to the property line has a 50-foot setback.
That's what A says.
So the key on this one is that it's a non-participating property. That means it's a property next door that has a residence on it that's not part of the battery storage facility.
Right, but okay, isn't the property line of the best facility the same as the property line for the adjacent parcel?
Yeah, I don't think that should say best property line to the nearest property line. It should be best. It's not property.
The site fence?
It's best. This is placement of the battery energy storage system. It's real. The way I read this is meant to be a
best system to nearest
property line of not. So
Well,
in other words,
it depends on how you want that
is this
to be.
trying to set a 250-foot setback to the property line?
Just use the language in C to start it. Best battery container to nearest property line.
Right. Yes, I think B and C should start the same way. Best battery container to nearest non-participating property line containing a residence is 250 feet.
So then what's the difference between B and C?
Yeah.
C
I'm
is,
trying to-
is the distance to the building.
Okay,
Not, so one is a property line distance, one is a building distance. Correct. A sets the fence back from the property line. B and C set where the battery container sits. And what it's saying is to the nearest property line containing a residence is 250 feet. So if the property line of the, if the BESS is being put on a parcel that is next to a residential property, it's got to be 250 feet back.
Okay, except the language doesn't limit it to residential property. It's just occupied building.
That's the next one, C. C is saying, If-
Okay, I'm sorry.
C is the distance to a
Was-
property,
Okay.
to a building.
Got it.
And are these things, I mean, where did these numbers come from, Nan?
I'd have to check, but I think I used most of the New York State model.
New York
Language.
State model, okay.
I'll check to make sure.
Can you double check that? Because I think
Yep.
B, I agree with Cheryl. B was very confusing because it was saying best property line to the nearest property line of a non-participating property. That sentence did not make sense. This makes more sense because we're talking about where the battery containers sit. This is really about setbacks. So and I guess my question is, do these setbacks make sense? So the nearest occupied building. So yes, so let's say you got a residence. If the resident is 100 feet from its property line,
Are
this,
they worried about it exploding? Or are
Uh,
they worried about the big conflagration when it catches fire?
the,
Well, that's why there are big setbacks.
What?
This sounds.
yeah,
The sounds they're worried about?
no.
Toxic gases too, probably.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, lovely.
yeah.
The idea is you don't want them too close to residences. And I mean, the biggest concerns in these are fire and noise, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
What's the noise part?
they really don't have, well, they can have cooling fans and stuff running so they can
It's a
have some
hum.
noise to them. Because,
Yeah, they-
oftentimes battery facilities need to be cooled so they can have,
Ah,
depends on the type of facility. I mean, it can have a hum similar to like what a,
it's gonna matter what the frequencies are.
Well, but there's sound zoning things, so
yep.
if they have to conform to the same sound zoning as everybody else, then maybe that'll help.
I don't think anybody has very good protections against the very low frequencies. And those are the ones that travel the farthest.
If the adjacent property was vacant and this went in, and then that adjacent property, the owner of it wanted to build within that 750 feet. Would that be prohibited, or could they seek a variance to do it?
Good question. Well, because this is citing setbacks for the energy storage. If things around it change after the fact, I don't know that the other property would have to adhere to the same setbacks, would they?
No, because these would be targeted to the battery storage use.
Right.
But you've created them because they present a problem. So you're presenting a problem to the property owner who might want to put up something there, and he's won't be protected.
If there's a site plan review and they have 10 days notification, they would show up and they could object, right?
Yeah.
saying, I want to preserve my option to build,
Right.
don't put your bets there.
Well, they need to know that when they
That-
get told about it, though.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, I guess I'd like to know more about this whole concept of property line setback versus
So
building, non-occupied building, because non-participating occupied building, because this, to me, the setback should be to the property line, because if you do it this way, you're right, a neighboring property, what if they want to subdivide it and, there's nothing, to your point, if there's nothing there now and they want to subdivide it and build within that 750 feet, what does that mean?
I mean, I think that's why it was originally written that it's not that setback is not to the container, but it's to the I mean, because there's other things that are part of the facility, that the containers, there's access roads, there's fencing, there's the actual building footprint that the storage containers are on. And then most of them, not most, they all have fences. So
Can we
it's
just
not
double
really
check?
the container. To me, it would be at least it would be the outside of the disturbed area of a battery storage facility to the property line of a non-participating property.
Right. And C, I'm not sure that C should even exist. Because
Yeah.
because to me that's just, because you can do it now, but what happens can we do this rather than sitting here and spinning our wheels? NYSERDA has some example code, right?
Yeah, that's what this was based off of.
Well, can we double check that?
Yeah,
Because this doesn't.
yep.
So if you could just double check what NYSERDA has for setbacks, and
Yep.
then.
But why? I mean, if NYSERDA came up with that to the
Well,
nearest,
I don't know that this matches what NYSERDA. That's what I want to check.
yeah,
So on the one hand, if a storage facility is built next to my vacant property, it could in effect prevent me from using that property.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yes. And, there was another thing that ran through my head. It will come back.
Sorry. But no, I think we need to not let that happen. Let's say, for example, because this says occupied building. Let's say, for example, the neighboring property is currently a farm,
Mhm.
and they want to subdivide it.
So the other side of that is, if I want to live 100 feet from a battery storage, am I allowed to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. That's why I'd like to double check this wording. I'd like to see what NYSERDA's examples. Nan, can we just make sure? Let's just take this part. If you can just double check the,
Yep.
double check what NYSERDA has in their sample code.
Yep.
And
I will
put that
get
in
that.
here, make sure that's what's in here, and then we'll come back and review that.
Yep.
Yeah. Then the only other comment I have in this section, and we're after 8 o'clock, so I think we're going to have to end here pretty soon. And this goes back to this other thing that we talked about before about completeness, right? Because in section 5 here, it says reviewed by the town board for completeness. It's generally not the board that's reviewing for completeness in any of this stuff, right?
Yes, it is. It has to be the seeker, you have to go over the seeker for it to be a complete application.
Right. Oh, okay.
I mean, the staff can make a recommendation that is complete, but you have the, you have
Got
the, you
Got
have
it.
to make that determination.
And I think in this case, we do keep the town board as the, because I think this is one of those things that we'd want to keep with the town board. All right.
They know, it's a whole can of worms, but it's gonna be a problem for, I think it's for B.
Or B. Oops. Go away. Or B.
Oh, for A.
Or A.
Best tier 2 shall not be stored on prime farmland soils. I don't know if you all have been following with the Trillium Woods. There are
No.
prime farmland soils that are very small areas. And what you would have to do is really jigger stuff around
Yep.
these small areas. Is that a practical prohibition?
Well, and
Yeah.
this this comes to a conversation Chuck and I had around definitions related to the conservation subdivision law. And you and I had a conversation about this earlier, is that even the ag committee mixes up terms and uses the same term to mean different things. And we, we need to define, like, prime farmland. When we talk about prime, we're talking about soils, right? We're talking about soil types. We're talking about
Soil
prime
types,
soils. We're
correct.
not talking about prime farmland. We're talking about prime soils.
Soils, right?
And so it's and even there's, in rereading the conservation subdivision code after Chuck emailed me about these definitions, I noticed there's a couple places where we sort of interchangeably use farmland and ag land, and there is a spot that it does reference prime farmland, which I didn't think it did, but it does. And it really means prime soils, right? And so we need to be consistent, I think, when we're at least in these written codes, we need to be very consistent about how we refer to these things.
I think we need to check and see if Ag and Markets uses prime farmland soils.
Yeah.
as their thing.
Yes, they
I
do.
think they might. Okay, so
They
then it
do.
should be prime farmland soils.
Farmland soils,
Yep.
but there's some places where we just refer to prime farmland, and that's
And some places we talk about ag land and
Yeah.
we need to make it
so
farmland.
if we're talking about prime, if we put the word prime on it, it's meaning
We're talking
it means soils, right?
Correct.
For us,
Right.
for us.
And that's what the definition is. It's not like a priority farmland area or, a prime place for corn. It's got a specific definition of what a prime farmland soil is.
Mhm.
But we can make sure
Well,
we,
I
go back
actually
and-
wrote up a bunch of, in responding to Chuck, a list of this means this, etc. We probably should circulate that to this group, just to make sure we're all on the same page, especially the ag committee, right? Make sure we're all on the same page with this, because even in the draft conservation subdivision law that we passed up, when I reread it, there are a couple places where I mean, I don't think it changes the meaning, but we are not 100% consistent in our terminology, right? Yeah. And I would love it if the ag committee would, like, if I circulated this, if they would weigh in and say, yes, that's what it means, or no, you don't know what you're talking about. Would be good. So I will circulate that to this group and the other committees. I know I sent it to you, Chuck, but I'll clean it up a little bit
That's quite good.
because I think
That's why it's a can of worms, because it's
Right.
soils.
right. Yeah.
Maybe we should put that on the cover page. This is a can of worms.
All right.
That's why.
So for next meeting, I'd like to do two major things. One is finish up this battery energy storage piece. So please review the battery energy storage, see if there's anything we need to look at there. We skipped over, what was that section I put in the email? I gotta find my email, hold on.
I forget where it was now.
Hold on, I'll find it. Just 1 second here. I know we want to get out of here. It's a holiday weekend. Let's start our holiday weekend, right? I'm gonna be smoking ribs tomorrow.
Are we invited?
Sure, on over.
Pork or beef or lamb?
The
It was 5/14.
and it's approved. Workforce housing, affordable housing, revisit definitions.
Have we gotten there?
Maybe it was under.
Oh, it was 9.14. And it was the conservation subdivision concepts for multifamily housing development.
Right, 914.
And essentially what we need to do in that section is, I think in general, this should just mirror, in most cases, it should just mirror the conservation subdivision code.
Yeah, because it's really the same thing, except you're not
It's really
doing
the same thing.
lots.
So what we need to do in this piece is make this match our draft of the, at least for now. I mean, and then whatever the town board does with the conservation subdivision piece, we should make sure that if there are changes made to that, that they get reflected here. Because this is really, the difference is, so this is about multifamily development that's not a subdivision. If you're going to do a big development, it should use conservation principles if this exists in, and it would be required if it's in RA or conservation zones. So this really should just mirror. I don't think we need to do a lot of review here. Are there pieces that are different than the conservation subdivision, or should it just mirror?
No, I mean, I think the things that are not, you're not creating the lots. So I think there's
Right.
a couple things to think about, whether you want to apply this to PUDs. I think
Right.
the applicability is something you need to, that's a policy you should discuss, but I think otherwise I agree, they should mirror each other.
And we did, like, there was a PUD we started looking at just recently that we did use some of these concepts for.
Mhm.
The one over on Cardinal Drive. I think that was before your time. You were here. So yes, there's questions there. You're right, because we're not talking about lot lines here. We're talking about, this is about placement of structures for
Right.
multifamily housing on a large lot,
Right.
right? So there are some differences, but the things about setbacks and about what should be preserved and all of those kind of things should be essentially the same as what's in the conservation subdivision. So in other words, avoiding prime farmland soils, is that the term I'm supposed to use? Prime farmland soils? Soils of statewide importance, all those streams and waters and steep slopes and all those other fun things, right? So
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's up for discussion is I did put a smaller amount of
green
open
space is smaller, right?
just because, you're trying to maximize for density in these things.
Correct.
So, but that's up for discussion.
Right. Okay. So those are things to look at. So, so next time we're going to talk about battery energy storage. This is section 270-9.14, which is the and then what else?
It's 9.13.
It's 9.13.
No, it's
Sorry,
14.
14. Okay.
Yeah.
13.14 is now 13.13. Sorry.
And then Chuck, you mentioned manufactured housing. Is there a piece of this that's on manufactured housing?
Oh, we're not there yet, are we? I mean, there's mention of it here, but in what Nan just pointed out, but we're not. Is that part of phase one, manufactured housing?
What you mentioned it. I'm wondering what.
I did, but I wasn't asserting it. I don't know what the original document from Nan, if it was part of phase one. I thought it was not, but if it wants to
Well,
be.
there was the phase one is housing stuff. But is there are there sections of this that pertain specifically to manufactured housing?
Well, manufactured housing is law 183, chapter 183. Right?
Yeah, that's a different law. I don't think we did anything with that yet.
Oh, that's a whole separate law. Oh, all
yeah.
right. It's not part of this phase, is it?
Well,
couldn't be.
It could be.
We're going to have to make a decision on whether to keep it separate or to bring it in to the zoning law.
All right. So what section is that?
Chapter 183.
Chapter 183. Versus 270.
Yes. And I thought, man.
So I think an agenda item then is a discussion of should it be a separate law? I mean, because it pertains to housing, I think, phase one was housing, but it should the manufactured housing piece be a separate law, or should it be incorporated in 270?
Well, and I think that that goes back to this applicability of this conservation design, because this, if you apply this to a manufactured home community,
right,
you've covered a lot of the same things.
Right. Right.
And I think from the audit that I did originally was like, yeah, your manufactured home park law was really old. And
that is really old.
What might, I think what we have to discuss is a conservation design adequate for what you need? I mean, are a manufactured home community any different than a tiny home community or a clustered cottage community just because they're manufactured homes?
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, so I think that's what we need to talk about.
Right. Okay. So I will try to incorporate that into agenda items. But the main thing is battery energy storage, and then this section 9.14, right?
Yep.
And then I'll bring some stuff where we can talk about 183 and how should we pull it? How should we consider it as part of this?
I think the zoning advisory committee sort of needs some information or material to weigh the if question that you've raised. If we keep it separate or incorporate it. And I thought, Nan, at the very beginning of this process, you had sort of leaned towards inclusion.
Yes.
That's what you're saying tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I just like to have all of these things in one place. They're all integrated with each other. So that's my, it doesn't always work out that way, but I think that's the efficient way to do it.
Right. Should section 279.15 be manufactured home communities?
Right.
on coattails of, let's say, that scenario, there's the question of whether to make it rather robust, as many jurisdictions have done, or already it always was organic to the zoning code, or as the village of Trumansburg has done, basically just say it's because they are now legally in New York State like any other stick-built home. Just use your zoning code and you don't need to make special reference to the fact that they are manufactured housing because they're ipso facto.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting question for us to consider, more than to include or not to include, whichever one we do. If we, do we just want to simplify it down to a few sentences, or do we want to look at possible contingencies and, contingencies that make them special, notwithstanding the fact that they are treated legally in New York State as equivalent.
Of any other single family home.
And
Well, I think the issue that we need to look into is that a manufactured home on a single parcel, yes, a single family home, we should, my opinion is most places are following the state's rules that they're just another single family home.
right,
A community, though, when they're not on individual lots, is that's why I added into this conservation design methodology is that's you're right, in that context it doesn't matter whether they're manufactured or stick built, but the way they're laid out on the lot is because it's a community and not just a single parcel. So yeah, I think you have to make you have to have that conversation, both, whether you want it in the law, out of the law. But I think Chuck is right that you want to, you first want to decide that are they any, like, is a clustered cottage development any different than a manufactured home development in how it functions and how it is going to act on the land. That's, how I look at it.
I'll just add that it's a peculiar tenure situation for the owner of a home within a manufactured home community. You've got ownership and a lease simultaneously, and that is what makes it different from a collection of cottages or
Correct.
a spot. So
Right.
that may be the key thing.
Yeah.
That we have to kind of deal with. Does that currently work in our zoning? Do we have other examples? Condominiums, for instance, or
Right.
Community land trusts, are they roughly equivalent because of the tiered ownership, or are they unique?
Can you share the Trumansburg example?
Can I what?
Can you share the Trumansburg example? Do you have access? Do you have it? Or?
Sure. Happy to try to get it.
All right. One last thing. Can we approve minutes? So we know what we're working on for next time, right? Is primarily this 914 and the battery energy storage. I think that's going to be plenty. Right? Okay. Minutes? Did you read them?
Yes.
Can we approve them?
Sure.
Can I make a motion to approve the minutes?
Nice second.
Okay, all in favor? Good. All right, we approve the minutes. Okay. Thanks, Pat. I saw your hand. I think we're good. Thank you
So
all.
your August meeting is the 6th, right? I just want to make
Our
sure.
next meeting is, our next meeting is August 6th. Oh, I may need somebody else to chair that one. No, I'll probably be here.